Proud Boys trial day 45, a short day in court. Unfortunately, we had some ill jurors. As usual, let's turn our attention over to Roger Parloff. He'll give us the breakdown here. He tells us that today is 9 weeks of Proud Boys trial. Holy moly, 9 weeks. He's been here for day 45. By comparison, the Oath Keepers trial only went on for 29 days. And he gives us a little bit of background on what happened yesterday. Of course, we read through all of the tweet threads from Roger Parloff, and you can follow him at @rparloff. But he reminds us that yesterday we had 2 witnesses, and we had George Meza and Alonzo, who were both on the stand. He says on the cross-examination, the government played a 4-minute selfie video, but he's not going to play that here. In the video, he says, when is violence justified according to Republicans? He said, in my opinion, we didn't do enough. Yeah, what happened in DC was called for. So apparently that video got in. On the cross-examination, that selfie video came in. The jurors heard that. He also said that J6 was the most patriotic act ever committed in this country in the last 100 years. Jurors heard that too. He called it a glorious event and closed, it was the patriots who led and who still lead the way. Uhuru, brother. Now, there's a much milder video that Meza made. He's on restricted grounds, and we like to fast forward through those. He says here, the 2D witness, or the second witness, was Alonzo. We heard from yesterday, read through that thread. Said on direct that he was insulted at the notion that Proud Boys would have contemplated storming the Capitol. But on the cross-exam, they showed him some messages. And he didn't sound like he was insulted. And if you remember yesterday, they asked him that. They said, you said that you would be insulted if somebody stormed the Capitol, but they said they were storming the Capitol in this Telegram group, and you're sitting there. Did you see it? You didn't respond to it? You weren't insulted? You didn't leave the group? You didn't respond in any way to confirm you were disgusted or communicate that in any way? So were you really disgusted? Maybe not. He was evidently, they say, not physically fit enough to enter the Capitol, but he monitored the events on the radios and from the lawn with the Proud Boys. And when news came on that somebody was shot inside, Alonzo ignored it and asked only whether Pence had been betrayed. Somebody else brought him a water bottle from inside. We talked about that. Now, when they were in session, these were what the messages looked like in court. And of course, couldn't see this yesterday. Looks like these are extractions. They tell us where it came from. The universal iOS generic. You see the links here from the Telegram app is where they came from. And it says here, a post from Deplorables51, this would have been Alonzo. Says, going on the 6 is not about fighting the lefties. It's about joining patriots on the Capitol steps, awaiting the outcome of history that affects us all. And then down here he says, in my opinion. And they were referencing this to say on the Capitol steps. Oh, there it is. You're going to storm it, aren't you? Awaiting the outcome of history that affects us all. But this is actually not bad, right? It's not about fighting lefties. It's about joining patriots on the Capitol steps. I mean, I think that there were people there believing that you could be there without being in violation of the law. In other words, they would get the same benefit that a lot of other protesters have gotten when they were protesting. You could sit on the Capitol steps, protest outside. You see this all the time, right? You see the abortion lovers. They're out there in front of the Supreme Court, protesting all the time. Whatever. And that's kind of, I think, what they're intending to do. We're going to go out there on the Capitol steps and we're going to protest. It's going to be peaceful. It's just going to be like any other protest where people are protesting, but business carries on as usual. In my opinion. So that's sort of how I would reframe that. Now, he had not evinced being insulted when they talked about this. One message came in from ALPB. Looks like that message was from another member, Michael Priest. Says, J6 may be the moment people need to take DC. Insurrectionist language there. And then somebody else said, it may not be that peaceful. As you can see, it may not be that peaceful. Dun, dun, dun. And, the Proud Boys were saying this was all a lot of locker room talk, which I don't doubt. In the Telegram chats, Alonzo did not seem to regard that footage taken to be helpful. And this was the section where he was talking about Eddie Block, who's on YouTube at Eddie Block Films, says, Crip or not, snitches get stitches. Which was not a very nice thing to say, but he thought he was a Fed, and you can say things when you're, it's a common phrase. Snitches get stitches. Doesn't always happen. It's just grade school kids say this. Grade school kids say that. Don't tell Johnny that I like Sally or something. The snitches get stitches, right? I mean, we said that as kids. I don't think anybody ever got stitches, but we said it all the time. But if you say it in a Proud Boys Telegram group, the federal government freaks out, thinks you're stealing the country. So be careful about using that language. Advise your kids accordingly. He continues, he says, here on January 14th, perhaps mixing up the National Mall and the Washington Monument, Alonzo writes off Eddie Block. And he was upset because Eddie was filming and Eddie was there as the Proud Boys videographer, and he was thinking he was doxing everybody. And so they're trying to make this as, show conflict between the two Proud Boys. Maybe somebody thinks he's a Fed. Somebody else thinks he's a Fed. Oh, and so they go back to Alonzo. Oh, so you don't want to be filmed. Oh, why? Because you want to hide your insurrectionary behavior. So Roger gets us up to speed. And finally, we get the judge. Judge Kelly's back on the bench. Roger's like, finally. Uh-oh. We're hearing that there may not be any evidence heard today. Apparently, a juror is ill and defendant Zachary Real has a medical issue. We got two people sick. Judge Kelly decides we'll come back and talk about it. Hops on the bench. Stephen Metcalf and So Stephen Metcalf is a defense attorney for Dominic Pizzola. He says, Your Honor, I know it's a little empty in here today, but I want to let you know that Enrique Tarrio's attorneys, Hassan and Jaraguay, they're caught in traffic. They're running a few minutes behind. They'll be here in a minute. And the judge says, that's okay. Actually, weird. As I emailed you this morning, we have a sick juror and we have a sick defendant. Judge is like, what the heck? So for the moment, all we can do is kind of hope and assume that we have a healthy jury tomorrow. But the protocols are that Mr. Real, the defendant, sick defendant, he probably can't be here until Thursday just because he's sick and jail protocols and all that. Judge is inquiring now. He says, well, let me ask you this, Miss Carmen Hernandez, who I'm screaming at regularly. Sorry about screaming at you yesterday. Sit down, sit down, sit down. However, would your client be willing to waive his appearance if we just went on without him? Could we just have him appear telephonically? Maybe tomorrow we could just go on with the trial if the juror's feeling better. Carmen Hernandez says, let me ask, Judge. I'll see if I can get in touch with him. He hasn't been transported, it sounds like, to the courtroom from the jail facility. I'll see if I can reach him. Carmen Hernandez says, give me a minute, Judge. All right, goes, figures that out. Prosecutor says, Judge, for a quick second here, can we hop on the sidebar phone? Anything? And the judge says, sure. Would love to talk to you. What's up? Hop on the phones. Jurors are not in the courtroom, of course. Sabino Jaraguay, defense attorney for Enrique Tarrio, he arrives in court. He's like, he's like throws the doors open. I made it. And then he's like, am I in trouble? He was weaving in and out through traffic, flying in there. I've been there, man. I know how that feels. Is the judge going to murder me? Am I in contempt? And they're like, actually, no. Juror's sick and the defense is sick too. He's like, oh. So why did I run over that little old lady on the way here? He's like, I'll go back and leave a note after this is over. All right. Well, that's good news. So the judge gives parties a chance to discuss the situation now that he's there. He says, all right, well, let me know when you guys have figured this out. All right, let me know. If you want to move forward without your clients, then we'll move forward without your client. We'll come back in 10, 15, or maybe 20 minutes. I don't know. We'll see. So then Roger gives us an update and how he's getting some exhibits and some other things. And look, Roger is on Rumble now, which is great. He's sharing Rumble links. Shout out to our friends on Rumble, where YouTube doesn't ban you. Roger is having some difficult time with YouTube, by the way. His channel is getting strikes all over the place because YouTube is YouTube. But Roger says, while we're waiting, I'll show you that George Meza, this was posted on a chat and it was forwarded there since he was kicked out So they'd kicked him out and they posted this video. It's an exhibit. We're not going to play it here. Go follow Roger Parloff if you want to see it. Judge Kelly says, all right, we're going to be back here in a minute, and we reconvene. He says, okay, any updates? Carmen Hernandez for the defense says, yeah, Your Honor, I was able to get in touch with my client, and we talked to him about the situation. He would agree to waive his presence for the confidential human source, which is another witness that evidently they have queued up to come in to testify. And Carmen says, and Your Honor, we also have a sergeant from the Capitol Police who's also going to be testifying about some permits. And so when we have that witness, he'd also waive for that witness too. So actually, she says, yeah, we can proceed without him if you want. And he said that, Your Honor, he doesn't actually think that he has pink eye. He's been seen by another medical professional today, so maybe he got pink eye in the jails. We're going to talk about the DC jails here shortly. He's going to be seen by another medical professional today, so if it's not pink eye, maybe he can be there tomorrow. Prosecutor says, all right, Judge, look, we don't want this case being appealed for any stupid reason like a presence waiver or something like that. And so we just request at some point that Zachary Real appear telephonically and just formally waive this thing, Judge. We don't want to get in trouble for this. Defense says, yeah, that should be no problem. Facility is usually accommodating. I can get him on the phone. I'm sure we can do that. No problem. So the judge says, okay, great. So we'll get him on the phone. We'll plan on that tomorrow. 2 witnesses teed up for tomorrow. And if we have a healthy jury, we'll be ready to go. Your client can just call in regardless. If he's not sick, he can be here. If he's sick, he can stay there and call in. Great. Anything else? Carmen Hernandez chimes in. Yeah, Judge, we also have Mr. Finley. All right. We've been extending his reporting to prison date, and I'll be filing with another judge to further postpone his reporting date. Looks like Mr. Finley is maybe a co-defendant or a defendant in another case who's been sentenced and is going to prison, but they need him as a witness. And so they're trying to get an extension of a self-surrender date. Mr. Finley, Judge Chutkin. And judge says, okay, well, let me know what's going on that. Let me know if you need me to reach out to Judge Chutkin and let them know that we do need that witness. Anyone else? Yeah, Ethan Nordine says, Judge, well, we've got our witness. We've flown our witness in from LA. They're sitting there in DC. He's like, our witness just came out from across the country. They're sitting here now. If a juror is going to be sick tomorrow, we would like to excuse the juror and have the second alternate come in. All right. So they know who this juror is, and they probably don't like this juror. So if this juror is sick tomorrow, Judge, kick him out of here. Okay. We've got a trial to run. Dang it. My witness is all the way out here from LA. And we're not here in trial today. And if we're not here tomorrow, that's adversarial to me and our case and our client. And so we got to swap in another juror. And he probably saw the juror who's sick. He's like, oh gosh, she probably came out with a Hillary sticker on her forehead or something. He's like, oh gosh, she's sick. Perfect. How sick? We need an alternate, so he's really excited about this. Now, the judge says, I'm reluctant to do that, all right, but I'll wait to hear from all parties. Maybe we can get an alternate in. That's why we have alternates after all. So then they discuss the logistics of getting the waiver. Of course, Zach Real is in Alexandria Detention Center. Hernandez says, let me get him on the phone right now. Let me see if we can just do this right now. We're here. So I'll just get him on the phone. We'll waive this and we can carry on. The judge says, yeah, great. Okay, so while we're waiting, prosecutors, what is your position? If the juror says tomorrow, I'm still sick. And again, we don't know how sick this juror is. What's going on? Food poisoning? Is it a 24-hour thing? Is this the longer bug? We don't know. Prosecutor says, well, I don't know, Your Honor. It's actually fact dependent, so it's kind of premature to speculate. Let's get more facts on where we are tomorrow. Well, you can speculate tomorrow. He says, well, one way or the other, we'll have the other jurors present tomorrow. So, do you want to put the alternate in, or would you object to that? Hassan raises his hand. Your Honor, hey, while you guys are talking over there, we just got Zach Real on the phone. So he's on the phone right now. Nick Smith, and maybe they call it right now. He's being passed the phone right now. And while the phone is being passed around, Ethan Nordine says, and Your Honor, while we're getting that set up, we could also discuss jury instructions today because we're getting close to the case. being closed, and maybe we can just get the jury instructions buttoned up here today. Judge says, well, I'm not really prepared for that today, and there's probably some subset of you, some of you, not talking about you, Nick Smith, but the other flabbergasting defense attorneys, like maybe Carmen or something. They are probably not prepared either. And Carmen's like, I'm prepared. But then they get Zach Real on the phone. He's on the speakerphone. Hassan is bringing Hernandez's phone to the judge right now. I'll take it up there. Walks it right up there. Here he is, Your Honor. Judge is obtaining a waiver for 2 witnesses if he's still ill tomorrow, and Real agrees. He says, all right, Mr. Real, so I understand you're sick today. You feeling okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Understand that tomorrow we've got 2 witnesses who are going to be presented. Your defense attorney, Carmen Hernandez, brought both of them. One is going to be the CHS, and the other person is going to be somebody else who's going to come in and testify. I think he's a Capitol Hill police officer. So we've also got both of those coming in tomorrow. If you're not here, are you okay if we proceed in your absence? You can appear telephonically just like this. Are you okay? Do you know you have a right to be here? Yes. Do you voluntarily waive that? Yeah. Anybody forcing you to waive this? No. Do you consent to this? Yes. Okay. Very good. On the record. Okay. No. Okay. Give it back to the judge. Goes back. Now he gets the waiver. If you're still ill, no problem, says Zach. I'll see you tomorrow. He's like, I didn't want to get on the bus anyways. Your courtroom's annoying. He says, that's it. Okay, well, we're done then. Anything else? No. Perfect. Well, we're done for the day. He says, we're going to resume tomorrow for at least 2 witnesses, and we'll get through it. Now, Nick Smith chimes in and says, well, let's do some disaster planning, all right? Like, I got to flesh out the rest of this. If we can't get witnesses or defendants on Wednesday and Thursday, can we stay here longer on Friday, says defense attorney. He says, well, that's a contingency on a contingency. We're not going to get there yet, Mr. Smith, so we'll get there on Friday. I'll look at it then. We're done for the day. Adjourned. Slams the gavel. Everybody gets out of there, and that's it. End of the day. Very, very short. Day 45. Adjourned till tomorrow at 9 a.m. Hope to see you then. Oh, you will, Roger. You will see us for sure. And so that, my friends, came over from Roger Parloff. As usual, senior editor over at Lawfare, journalist, published all over the place, and a real nice guy for live tweeting these things for 45 days. Make sure you're following and supporting our friend Roger Parloff for the great updates on Proud Boys Trial 45. We'll be back tomorrow to see what else they have in store for us and, of course, continue to cover.